The following has been brought to you by SJP World Media.
Let me talk to you.
You're listening to In the Corner with Benny Mac. Unfiltered, uncensored, and unforgiving. Here's the man in the corner, Benny Mac.
Welcome to In the Corner, episode 50. How do we get here? I have no idea. I want to thank everybody for listening, tuning in. Hope you had a great weekend. Here, obviously, on SJP World Media. Thank you very much for tuning in. Wow. As I sit here and talk to you, ladies and gents, it is Tuesday. Monday night. Raw. To be honest, didn't disappoint, I don't think. And only for a few reasons, but those few reasons were worth tuning in, to be totally honest. Some great wrestling, though, overall. Some good storylines going forward. One match I was probably not looking forward to for Backlash. It was announced on SmackDown last week, and it was Seth Rollins versus Omos. And I'm not going to lie, I was like, really? No build, no nothing? And then this week on Raw, we had an altercation between those two, and this speaks volumes, I think, of Seth Rollins and MVP. Obviously, Omos not so much a talker with MVP in his corner, but with one promo, I want to see this match now. I don't know if it's going to be any good, but I want to see it. So Backlash obviously fast approaching. Hopefully Tyler can join me next week and we can get our predictions in. I was going to do something. I don't know. I didn't know what to do. I've never done 50 episodes of anything before, so I didn't really know what to do. But other than thank you for listening, thank you for tuning in, thank you for supporting the SJP Raw Media Network and this show especially. Thanks to Sai for pushing me and keeping me motivated when I needed it. Tyler for coming on, joining in. NJB back in the day, who has been, started the show with me, who hopefully we can get back on at some point. It'd be good to have him on. I want to hear NJB and Tyler interact with each other because that could be quite an interesting conversation between those two. I might have to be the referee for that one. I don't know. I get the feeling those two would have they could have a lot in common, but I think a lot of different opinions, which I think would be really good at some point if we can get that locked down. But it's kind of hard to get it locked down half the time. But I'll try. But yeah, 50 episodes of In the Corner. It's not like I've not done wrestling podcasts before. I did them back at the BenNny Mac show and stuff like that, and we did wrestling and games and stuff. It was more of an overall entertainment show. So to focus on, I did this back in about 2016 where I just focused on wrestling, or 2015, sorry. 2015 and 2016, I think it was. But the product was not as good. Is it perfect now? No. Is it more entertaining now? For me personally, yes. I can't speak for everybody else. Obviously, let me know your thoughts at In The Corner WWE on Twitter, at In The Corner WWE on Twitter. You can also email the show, actually, at inthecornerwwe@gmail.com if you want to. Anything longer that you want to talk about, or even just DM the show on Twitter, like I said. Follow, obviously, at SJP World Media if you're not already. This is where the show is. This is where it will be, as long as Sai wants it. I think the ratings are okay. Hopefully we can move forward. But yeah, 50 episodes. I don't really know what I'm going to say, but other than thank you, I guess. So let's just move on with the show as normal. We got some news. Randy Orton related, and I wanted to get the RNN news music that he used back in about 2003 when he hurt his shoulder. Do you remember that? And he used to do those weird, like, little, almost making him a heel as such. But we do have some news.
We interrupt your regular broadcast to bring you this important news bulletin.
So, I say news, it's obviously from the Webosphere. Obviously, we never know with these things. I mean, we've been talking on this show for months about Triple H introducing a new title. We finally had it this week, which I'll get into a bit more in a moment. But apparently, according to Inside Sport, Randy Orton can be back sooner than we think. sometime after the draft, apparently. So the draft starts this Friday on SmackDown, continues on Monday on Raw next week. So we're looking forward to that, seeing how that's going. I'm also curious with that, whether we're going to have GMs locked in again. At the moment, Adam Pearce runs both shows. So how can he draft both shows? So we must have somebody coming up to be the face of maybe SmackDown. Maybe that was meant to be Shane McMahon until he tore his quad. I don't know. We'll see how that pans out. But my point is, Randy Orton apparently could be returning shortly after the draft, which, according to this report, keep an eye on it, because wherever Roman Reigns ends up, allegedly, will spell trouble for Roman Reigns. So by the sounds of it, Roman's next challenger could be Randy Orton. Now, if that is possible, I'd love to see that. I know we've kind of seen it before in the past, but again, I'd love to see that again and see Randy Orton back in WWE, obviously, and get him back in the ring. Obviously, he had surgery and stuff. It was and also back related stuff going on. So hopefully that's healing as well. But while we're on this little news segment, I did read an article the other day, and again, Webosphere stuff, ladies and gents. So whether it's true or not, but hopefully it's true. But apparently, Gunther is set to take on the returning Big E at some point. So whether that's true, again, we'll see. We'll watch. Obviously, the draft could bring a lot of surprises. Also, an unsubstantiated report, according to, I don't know if I said that word right, but there we go. I saw something, again, Webosphere, ladies and gents. So this was not on a website, this was on social media. So I don't know how true it is. But apparently in Chicago, CM Punk was backstage on Raw. Now, there's a lot of talk about him possibly going back to AEW. There is money to be made with this guy. I don't care what anybody says. There's money to be made with CM Punk. But whether that's AEW or whether that's WWE, now, he could just be visiting people. They are. I've seen people backstage in documentaries before that don't work for the company, that either have friends or spouses that work for the company and they're backstage. So it's not impossible for him just to be there visiting, if indeed he was there at all. So at the moment, as I sit here recording today, I don't know whether exactly CM Punk was there. But if he was, very interesting going forward. So we'll see, obviously. But let's talk about some stuff that we can actually, we actually all saw, we would have seen. If you've seen Raw, by now you would have by the time this episode comes out, which will be obviously Wednesday morning. But yeah, I already mentioned Seth Rollins come face-to-face. That one promo makes me want to see this match. Is it a groundbreaking promo? No, but the fact that they even did it was really good, and the way they did it was good. And I think it's and again, Omos hasn't really won a match lately, but the size of him next to Seth Rollins, even when Seth Rollins was wearing his heels as well, I did notice, and he still was nowhere near. And obviously Seth also talked about the new World Heavyweight Championship, so there's a lot of guys bidding for a chance at this new, I say new, it's the old WCW / World Heavyweight Championship, isn't it? To us fans, me especially, anybody else who's been a fan of wrestling for probably 20 plus years, if not longer, is going to draw parallels. It is, Triple H, called it the World Heavyweight Championship. To me, it's just it's a newer version of the World Heavyweight Championship. It's carrying on the legacy. That title is, older than WWE Championship, so there's a lot of history there. Ric Flair, Triple H himself, and there's loads more there we can go into at a later date, but there's just so many historic reigns with that bout alone. Obviously, I believe it started all the way back in maybe NWA, so so cool. We've got to talk about I'm trying to go through the rest of Raw first, but I can't not talk about this World Heavyweight Championship bout. It's got the big WWE logo in it, don't get me wrong, but you know what? It's got the gold around it. If you haven't seen it, obviously, if you're on Twitter at In the Corner WWE, it's going to be up there, or it's going to be online somewhere. You're definitely going to see it. It's probably yes, it's got the WWE logo in it. Of course, it has. But you know what? It looks bloody amazing. It's gold for a start. It's all gold near enough, apart from the WWE logo itself. It's that big gold strap again, which I think a lot of us have been on this show. Me especially, I've said it so many times on this show since we started that I'd love to see this belt back, and it is here. It's here. We've got it. Who's going to pick up this title and run with it going forward? A lot of people are probably going to say people like Seth, Drew, Cody, top three. You got to say probably. Let me know your picks. Obviously, who you'd like to see in this for this World Heavyweight Championship. But for me, I feel like Cody needs to be, at the moment, I mean, I don't want to take anything away from the title, but for me, Cody needs to beat Roman. There's nothing wrong with this championship. Obviously, the drafts come in. Where's Roman going to end up? Raw, SmackDown? We don't know. I feel like if they are going to run with this World Heavyweight Championship, for me, I think Roman needs to be on Raw, and the new Heavyweight Championship, bringing it back, obviously. For me, I think it needs to be on SmackDown, for my own personal opinion there, because that show can build it and do really well. Then to see Roman on Raw every week would be, I don't know whether he's going to be there every week, obviously, but maybe keep Cody over there on Raw, get Roman. Before Cody gets there, maybe Randy has a shot. I don't know if that is true, but the bout looks bloody beautiful. And there was also a little smirk on Triple H's face just before he revealed it. It was like a little. He was having trouble containing himself, I think, because he loves old bouts. One of his the designs I really like is the NXT North American Championship. It's a great bout. Also, now there's a lot of talk about, because now Roman is essentially he's still the WWE Undisputed Universal Heavyweight Champion. We feel like either that bout's going to hold the mantle of WWE Universal Champion, or it's going to be WWE Championship again. But it begs the question, is Roman still going to carry around two bouts, or is he going to... is it going to be morphed into one? Now, and there's a lot of tweets going out on social media already, BT Sport and all that kind of stuff. WWE themselves are putting out tweets. Which bout do you like? And you've got the old gold Winged Eagle. You've got the for the Bret Hart days, you've got the one where Austin had it, the big gold circular one. Again, Winged Eagle, I think they call it. You got the spinner bout, which, it had its place in history. I think it needs to stay there. And then one of the older ones from the WWE Championship days. So, logically speaking, that those two bouts that Roman's carrying around very soon, maybe after the draft, or even maybe his next title defense, which I don't know when that's going to be yet. It's not going to be a Backlash coming up, definitely. The most of the talk on the Webosphere is saying SummerSlam, but we have Money in the Bank coming up. Obviously, we're going to crown a new World Heavyweight Championship. I think it was May 26th. At Crown Jewel, I believe. So, there's a couple of months before we have SummerSlam. So I would think that Roman would more than likely either be at Money in the Bank or Crown Jewel. Roman's closing in on 1,000 days, obviously. I mean, that's insane in itself in this era, isn't it? Bruno Sammartino was a 13-year, but that was a 2 title reigns. But even that's mental in itself. But it's a 1,000-day reign is. John Cena didn't even do that. So it's insane, and there's still so much going on with the Bloodline. Still, this week on Raw we had the Usos to the Bloodline. Sorry, so there's a 6-man tag coming up at Backlash. Sammy, Kevin, Riddle taking on the Bloodline in Sokoa and the Usos. So these matches have been happening. So they've had their respective 6-man tags as we lead into Backlash. So a week from Saturday. But the Bloodline defeated the LWO. It was cool to see the LWO with their own music. They did use a Viva La Raza from Eddie's music. There's talk going on online about that. I personally, I know maybe I would assume the Guerrero family gets something for this. I don't know, but for the fans, as a fan myself, whenever I hear Viva La Raza, I've just got so many fond memories of Eddie being in the ring. One of those guys I definitely miss not being in wrestling. My mind is like, where would he be now? He'd probably be a multi-time world champion by now as well. I believe he had more world title reigns in him. But the LWO carrying it on. It's a good match, actually. Opening match to Raw. I enjoyed this, to be honest with you. Ultimately, the Bloodline defeated the LWO. So both teams going into Backlash in 6-man tag team matches, at least, are undefeated. So it'd be really good. But this Friday on SmackDown, the Undisputed Tag Team Champions will be on the line. In KO and Sammy obviously defending against Usos. But it was an interesting thing backstage with Sammy and Jay. And again, a conversation that's, you can almost see after the fact, rattled Jay. And as I keep saying, this Bloodline story for me, and I think for a lot of people, is about Jay and Roman. So at some point this is going to happen, I believe. But, Jey Uso after the match said, we're going to do this for the bloodline. We're going to do this for the tribal chief. Sami Zayn saying, look, now that you put his name to it, if you lose, what's going to happen to you? So Sami's showing concern for Jey and Jimmy to a degree, but Jey mainly. Jey kind of dismisses Sami and he does, blah, blah, blah. Says, you want to worry about this and all this kind of stuff. And then later on, Jimmy and Sikoa and Jey sat backstage and Jimmy's saying, I'm main event Jimmy and we're going to beat him and all this kind of stuff. And Jey looks really sort of like worried, concerned, or just in his own head, I guess. He reveals to Jimmy that he spoke to Sami and Jimmy's not happy. Solo Sikoa has to calm Jimmy down. Later on, we see Jimmy talk to Sami saying, well, hang on a minute. You're saying about what's going to happen to us. What's going to happen to you when you lose to us on Friday? Sorry. And then Kevin Owens turns on you because do you think he's forgotten everything you did to him while you were with us? So playing mind games back and forth. I don't think Sami is necessarily mind games. I think it's genuine concern for Jey. We'll see what happens. I honestly don't know whether we're going to have the Usos are going to regain those titles or whether I believe at the moment, as I'm sat here talking to yourselves, that KO and Sami probably will retain, and then this will lead into more. I think Roman's going to be around at some point, so backstage stuff at least to keep this story going, or if not, Paul Heyman will be around to, make sure the Tribal Chief's will is done. So we'll see what happens with that. But again, I still believe this is about Jey and Roman going forward. Cody Rhodes defeats Finn Balor with the Crossroads. Good match. Cody Rhodes did hit a pedigree in this match. Finn Balor basically saying after Brock attacks you, you should join us the Judgment Day so you're, with us going forward and you've got backup. And obviously, Cody respectfully declines. But as per usual, when you decline the Judgment Day, it leads into a match. And this ended up having a match later on in Raw. To be fair, Cody Rhodes won with a hit the pedigree, then the Crossroads and won. It was a good match. It was good to see Cody in the ring. Obviously, we're building towards Backlash. Brock Lesnar's going to be there next week on Raw before we get to Backlash, so we can hear a bit more from himself because we haven't really. Street Profits defeat Cedric Alexander, and Shelton Benjamin. Montez Ford gets the win over Cedric Alexander. Obviously, the draft's happening. They're playing this to the could we see these teams split up? Again, Cedric Alexander and Shelton Benjamin, a while back we were talking about the Hurt Business. It doesn't seem to have gone anywhere, unfortunately. Whether that does after the draft, I don't know, because it does some of this stuff moving forward to Backlash, obviously, but there is stuff that feels like it's treading water so we can get to the draft so that it can then move on with their respective shows. So I'm optimistic about some of these things. Whether the Hurt Business ever comes back, I was optimistic about that a couple of months ago, but at the moment I'm not. It feels like it's not going to happen. We're going to have Austin Theory, Bobby Lashley, and Bronson Reed in a triple threat for the US title. I'm looking forward to this. Again, we'll talk about those matches next week a bit more. I am enjoying the Bronson Reed, Bobby Lashley stuff. Now you've got Austin Theory in the mix as well for the US title. Could be very interesting. I think that could be a really good match, actually, at Backlash, to be honest with you. Theory goes for a cheap shot on Lashley, but it ends up he misses. Bobby Lashley gets the better of Theory, then Bronson Reed comes out, and it's just a brawl, basically. So I'm going to mention very quickly, Mustafa Ali actually was in competition because he's from Chicago. He actually got a win over Chad Gable. There's stuff going on with Chad Gable and Otis with Maxine Dupree and all that stuff going on still. So that's interesting. The Mustafa's positively Ali or whatever he says. That's quite hard for me. I'm not buying it at the moment. It's a shame because Ali's actually really good in-ring talent. It's just trying to get this character overall himself over to where he was 3-4 years ago, where he was actually almost competing in the Elimination Chamber, wasn't he, for the was it for the WWE title, I think? One of the major titles at the time. He had a lot of fan following, to be fair. So we'll see where that goes. But one interesting thing happened, which was a women's division. So Bianca Belair was being interviewed backstage. Then Damage Control, Dakota, Bayley, Io. Now, Io Sky will be taking on Bianca Belair for the Raw Women's Championship. But Io Sky wanted to Bianca Belair this week on Raw, but Bayley interjected and said, we'll have a six-woman tag team match, and the look on Io Sky's face was like, no, that's not what I wanted. So, although I don't think Io Sky right now is going to championship whenever that happens, I think it's at Backlash, I'm not sure. We'll confirm that next week, but eventually Io and Dakota, I believe, will have enough of Bayley's BS of interjecting and making herself in matches and stuff. And it was interesting again because Bianca Belair teamed up with Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez, and they defeated them. But Belair hit Bayley with a KOD, and Bayley got pinned basically. So Io Sky again was not happy. So you can see the thread starting to break within Damage Control. It's happening. I think it might come to a head I think it is Backlash. But when this Raw Women's Championship happens, I feel like the wheels are going to fall off Damage Control very quickly, and it's going to end up with Io Sky maybe blasting versa. Something's going to happen very soon with Damage Control. And to be fair, unfortunately for the group, initially really good, but just didn't quite. The wheels haven't just, I don't know, they're stuck in the mud somewhere. I don't know what's going on, but it's not quite worked the way they were hoping. I want to give a little mention about Matt Riddle this week. Again, his comeback wasn't the greatest, but was really interesting with he seems to be, instead of playing this cool bro, RVD, smoking dude that he kind of plays, surfer dude, I should say, not weed, but there we go. He's having fun, and then also all of a sudden he's like he's almost like Silent Bob from those films, the Jay and Silent Bob films, where Silent Bob doesn't say anything the entire film, then all of a sudden when he does speak, like from the heart or whatever, it's really knowledgeable stuff. So him and Sammy had a good moment this week on Raw. Check that out. It was really because Riddle was like, "Oh, how you feel, Sammy?" or whatever. He goes, "How do you know how I feel?" "Well, I used to have a tag team partner, an RK Bro, and every week everybody told me he was going to turn on me, and he didn't, and I had to deal with that every week." So there's some commonplace there between what's happening with the Usos, KO, Sammy, the Bloodline, all that kind of stuff. So I'm liking this this fun side of Riddle, which we've always had, but also dropping in this, like, actually he's a really clever dude. So little moments of that at the moment are building. I don't know where it's going, but I'm enjoying it, to be honest. Again, probably the biggest moment from this week's Raw is announcing a World Heavyweight Championship, I'm not going to lie. Brilliant. The main event this week was Rey Mysterio versus Damian Priest. Bad Bunny was like announced the entire show. He's coming. Then he did like an Instagram post which they showed on the show, which got a good response. Of course, Damian Priest put Bad Bunny through a table a few weeks ago. Bad Bunny's hosting Backlash in Puerto Rico, not Costa Rica, like I said last week, Puerto Rico. But apparently Bad Bunny is no longer... the match that Damian Priest and Rey Mysterio put on, by the way, were really good for a main event. In the end, Rey Mysterio won by disqualification because Priest threw a chair at Rey Mysterio, basically. Beatdowns kind of starts, and all of a sudden Bad Bunny's music comes on. He comes out with a kendo stick. Damian Priest, in fairness, didn't back down, took a few whips, and then got out the ring. Bad Bunny then announces, I'm no longer hosting Backlash. I'm going to be competing in a match against you, Damian Priest, basically, and it's going to be a street fight between Bad Bunny and Damian Priest. Again, Bad Bunny a fair few years ago at WrestleMania, when he teamed with Damian Priest, I was like, okay. And then the match ended up being really good and got a lot of love from the WWE Universe, and he put on an excellent, and because he's one of these celebrity, obviously he's a musician, a recording artist, but it's one of these people that takes it seriously and enjoys WWE, I think, as a whole, and wrestling maybe as a whole. So sometimes when you see these actors and stuff come in, and that's fine, they're not from that world, I get it, but you can tell the ones that have respect, not just when they get in the ring, but I mean people that actually have respect for the business and enjoy the entertainment side of it and what WWE is about and wrestling as a whole is about. And Bad Bunny, beg your pardon, it is really good, basically. There was, but that's about it, really, to be honest. Overall, Raw's a very sort of obviously it's all about this Friday and then into next week, isn't it? Really. So like I said a minute ago, we feel like we're treading water a little bit. We're trying to get to the draft. Weirdly, there are some people online who don't like the new championship because they think because obviously Roman does both. But they're splitting the brands again, and this time it looks like it's going to stick because I've been moaning about it for the last month and a half, if not longer. They are going to, permanently separate these brands. Again, GMs, have we got any? Adam Pearce at the moment runs both shows, so who is going to come in, if anybody, to... I'd like a GM on both shows. I know we've had it before, and I know it's been done before, but it then gives that clear hierarchy of who does the day-to-day stuff. Yes, you can have Triple H come out occasionally and do stuff. Maybe, I don't doubt it, but maybe I was going to say maybe a Vince McMahon, but I was hoping maybe Shane McMahon was supposed to do something going forward, but again, tearing his quad. But if he's meant to be a GM again, then maybe he can be sort of on tape doing it. He doesn't have to necessarily be there in terms of what else is going on. I read initially he was supposed to go on and do something with WWE after WrestleMania, but again, tearing his quad does not help that. So, again, I've already said it a few weeks ago. I don't think it will happen, at least not right away, if at all. But the whole people thinking that Vince is in charge, I don't know. Of course I'm not going to know. It seems like Triple H is at the moment. There's a lot of stuff going on. Could we have a Vince McMahon, maybe they don't mention Vince's name, but maybe they can have a GM put on one of the shows and they say, maybe they make a decision and Triple H comes out and says, why did you make that decision? It came from above you. And don't mention Vince's name, but just say stuff like that and imply that it's Vince. We could have a whole Triple H Vince, versus type thing going on. I don't think that'll happen based on what's happened behind the scenes, but it wouldn't surprise me either way. It's, real life events. People think Vince is running it. Is he not running it? I don't know. But we could potentially see that. Why not do that, really? It makes sense to me to play out. It would be an interesting storyline. But at the moment, I think having Vince away, not on TV, is probably better. Not to quote Triple H, but it's probably better for business than having him actually on screen at the moment. So we'll see how it pans out. SmackDown is on Friday. I will do my best to get a show out because it's a draft. I've got to do something for that, haven't we? I'll also do my best to try and get Tyler on next week. But thank you very much for listening to In the Corner. This is BenNy Mac. This is the SJP World Media Network. Plenty of other shows to check out if you haven't already. This is In the Corner, and we'll see you again definitely next Wednesday.